Let's light it up until our hearts catch fire. Then show the world.
We have many things to celebrate. In R&D, we now have the richest pipeline than we've ever had. 32 programs in phase 1 to submission in our areas of particular expertise and focus. In migraine and pain, movement disorders, neurodegeneration, respi, and a few others. So this represents a very significant pipeline. It's grown significantly from 2012. And by the end of this year, we think we'll have around about 40 programs in development. Another exciting perspective is that in January 2014, we had no NTEs in the pipeline. 2 and a bit years later, we have 9 in the clinic, fulfilling the promise. We said we could do it cheaper, faster, and also create value. This is remarkable. Just recently, we had our first novel biologic approved, reslizumab. And when you see the results that patients spoke about during this particular trial, no longer sick, could run again, felt much better, this gives us all a sense of deep pride. But it's not the only good news we've had in respi. We've had quite a lot of good news. ProAir has also been approved recently for the pediatric indication. QVAR BAI, we had stellar results in phase 3, and now we're on track for the second half of the year of the NDA submission. And we have submitted 2 new NDAs for FS RespiClick and FP RespiClick. Biologics and small molecule development have achieved some remarkable things.
We are leaders in small molecules drug design, and this shows actually 2 molecules that come out of our discovery group. An inhibitor of fatty acid synthase is a novel target for antipsychotics-induced weight gain. Show you here very briefly, these are rats treated with olanzapine, which makes not only rats but also people who take olanzapine gain weight, one of the major reasons for discontinuation. And you see the rats gain weight, treated with our inhibitor, they do not. And DLK is a novel target for neurodegenerative disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, ALS, perhaps neuropathic pain, perhaps Alzheimer's disease. We have the most potent DLK inhibitors known in the industry, and the first crystal structure of an inhibitor bound to the enzyme, which allows to design even more potent and more selective molecules. We are world leaders in deuteration, and DPD is both developing the early and late Auspex pipeline, and also, even after the Auspex acquisition, so this, we are particularly proud of this, we actually filed 4 new provisional applications on novel deuterated molecules. We have an early pipeline in our core TAs, neuropsychiatry, respi, MS, migraine, neurodegenerative disease, and with IND dates that come up actually in the next 1 to 3 years.
So let's have a look at the pipeline coming out of these efforts here. So I've broken it down into the TAs. What you can see here is the respiratory pipeline and just the different types of molecule I want to mention. So for instance, the anti-TL1A is a novel target. It's a pro-inflammatory cytokine we are inhibiting for asthma. It's differentiated over reslizumab in the sense that we have an antifibrotic effect and we have a broader target cell population. Then we talked about the biobeta, the pulmozyme in the tidal inhaler. And we have another biobeta, which is the next generation anti-IL-5 antibody, which is has a higher potency, it has a longer half-life, and has a much lower cost of goods. So it's a life cycle management for our IL-5 franchise, and then a couple of new other innovative drugs. On the pain and CNS, it's a bit different. Here we're talking about real new targets, TrkA, PACAP, for instance, for migraine. Anti-LINGO is a MS approach, and this is combined with a Trojan horse I'm going to spend some time on. And then again, pain and some of the, mostly pain indication with new targets. On the biosimilars, we have 4 products in the market, and we have 3 currently in development, and now we have a process established to select which one will follow those. So we talked about Humira, and then we have Prolia and Synagis, and then a list of potential candidates we want to initiate fairly soon. One of the major challenges for biologics is to cross the blood-brain barrier. And our team in the discovery area definitely wants to develop novel cutting-edge platforms to address diseases like Huntington's, MS, CNS diseases, which are currently not tractable by biologics. There are several efforts right now in the industry to come up with non-invasive methods without basically drilling a hole in your skull.
This is a new platform that we're developing with the NRC in Canada. So this platform technology is a way to trick the blood-brain barrier to grabbing these drugs and then pulling them into the brain so that they can then find their targets and take on their pharmacological action.
There are several companies working on that, but the receptors themselves are not that specific towards the brain, so they are also found in other organs. So you have to worry about off-target activity, off-organ activity. What we have identified together with our collaborator in Canada is a more specific receptor, at least it's what we believe right now, more specific to the brain with a higher kind of transcytosis rate, so a higher uptake rate into the brains. It could give us clearly a competitive advantage. The verdict is still out because all these technologies are still very early on, but I'm very confident that based on the data we have created so far, showing that we can actually transport an antibody into the brain and some functional data, not with antibodies but with small peptides, led me to believe that there might be a real breakthrough technology coming along in the next couple of years.
We're building strength around the world in R&D. We've doubled the size of the regulatory affairs team in Mumbai. Also in personalized medicine, we've made big changes. We now are collecting DNA as an integral component of all Teva's clinical trials, complemented by, where appropriate, biomarker characterization for each program. This again represents a shift in the landscape, a shift in the mood, a changing reality for our clinical development program. I'm also delighted to say that over the last year, there have been tremendous improvements in our engagement survey, in our survey of the organization, suggesting that R&D has become a people-centric organization. Teva R&D is really significantly above what's seen in high-functioning organizations. There's been a significant increase in all parameters, and I'm proud to see the change in culture, the mood, the morale, the optimism seen in R&D at the present time.
We'll never know what stands behind the door.
There have been all kinds of recognitions of the changing climate and the changing tempo and the changing perspective in Teva this year. One of the most interesting was at JP Morgan when they were defining, and this idea pharma that does this on a yearly basis, defining the most exciting innovators in the biopharma industry. Teva was listed within the top 10, and we were recognized for our patient-centered approach in NTEs, which we'll hear a lot about, and challenging the gap between unmet need and solution, putting known molecules into novel approaches. The world is noticing Teva, and the world is noticing the changes that we have.
I'm very proud of what you have been doing during the last 2.5 years since I joined Teva. I think all the TRAC members, maybe but one, are here, and that's a testimony to the importance of R&D, especially in the future of Teva. We solidified the foundation of Teva. We got our house in order across 6 key verticals. We transformed generics. We changed the way we think, act, and lead in specialty. We changed the way we think, act, and lead in specialty.
Let's light it up until our hearts catch fire.
We want to make a difference in patients' lives. We want to change it from hopeless to hopeful. And for that, it doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as it truly has benefit for patients. So my challenge to us, as we look to the next 2021, is that we together, working in a way that's unprecedented, can become the most creative R&D organization on the planet. Dedicated to and leading the way in medicines and more. So why are we doing this? Because this will change darkness to light for patients. This will lift patients' spirit so that people can continue to live their lives filled with purpose and meaning. What a unique journey we're on. What a privilege it is to be able to play a role in doing something so profound for humanity. For me, disease is a distortion of nature. And our role as scientists and physicians is to restore the patterns of nature, restore the normal flow. And sometimes we come to solutions in other ways. And so we need the left side of our brain, and the right side of our brain in an effort to be inspired by nature to come to the solutions that we're looking for in the interest of our patients.
For me, there is the kind of the Holy Trinity. I call it the Holy Trinity of what will be a good dancer, a good artist, probably a good scientist, and probably a good anything. And I would think of the power of imagination, skills, and passion. I stopped talking about excellent. I don't care about excellent. For me, excellent and mediocre are very close to each other. And sublime is another place. It's something that is not just words. When you realize that to be excellent is not a goal that is taken for granted that you are excellent. We are excellent, but we don't try to be excellent. We try to produce sublime moments.
My grandfather had cancer, and he was in a lot of pain during these last few days. I remember he asking me when he was in the hospital what I was going to do with my life. And I said, I have that clear. I'm going to be a veterinarian because I love animals. I want to defend animals, and I don't want animals to suffer. And he said to me, this is so much pain, the pain that I'm feeling, that it will be great if you do something for people with pain. And I think if you can do that for animals, you can do it for people. And it was a decision. I said, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor, and I'm going to be working in pain. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to alleviate pain. In my 4th year of medicine, one day I was studying, and I had a severe headache, and I lost consciousness. And I woke up a few days later to find out that I had a stroke, and I have to stop my studies. And then I had severe headaches after that. And I went to all the neurologists in Colombia at that time, and nobody could respond. Nobody could give me a response to why I have headaches. Nobody in my country was a specialist in headaches, so I said, I'm going to do it. And I went, and I became a headache specialist. And then I came back to my country, and I practiced neurology for 5 years. And one day I said, I have to find a way to help more people. 15 months ago, I received a call. And when I received that call says, are you interested in here? What are we doing in Teva? And I said, yeah, Teva is a good company, but I'm so happy with what I'm doing here that I'm probably not interested. And that person who calls me says, give me just 10 minutes. And I said, okay. So I went to Fraser, and it took me just 5 minutes talking to 5 people, 5 minutes talking to Marcelo, to understand that this is the right place to be.
My first encounter with ALS was actually at a job interview for an ALS nonprofit. So I knew about ALS before, of course. I learned about it, I've done research in it, but I've never met an ALS patient before that day. ALS is such a terrible illness that it really defies all logic. It simply defies all comprehension that the disease can take so much from you while leaving your core self so completely intact. ALS patient will lose the ability to move, write, talk, eat, smile, and eventually even breathe. But maybe the thing that defies logic more than anything is that within all of this, they don't lose anything of their selves. So they don't lose their passion, their interest, their love of life. Avi was diagnosed with ALS at 29. It was his first semester as an MBA student at Harvard Business School. His life had just begun, and we're already ending. I was 29 when I first met him. When he told me, key by key, letter by letter, how his doctor told him to make a will, how he went to bed and stayed there for 6 days, and then left the bed and decided to do everything he can to accelerate the cure for ALS. They taught me that hope is not just hope for a cure. It's the hope to work on these minute details and new genes and new pathways and new programs, Because in the case of ALS, hope is the hope to finish another kilometer in a marathon for which you are completely unprepared. And I wanted to tell you that that kind of hope is what brings me to Teva, and I think brings all of us together.
When I was born, I was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis, which is a hereditary disorder that typically reduces life expectancy. However, when I was 18 years old, I was re-diagnosed with a very rare but benign congenital condition called macrodystrophy lipomatosis. I was told that there were only 6 reported cases, but rare doesn't matter if it's happening to you. The cause of my disease is unknown, but I've always suspected that it was related to a drug that my mother took for the treatment of migraines when she was pregnant with me, but before she knew. And this realization was what's really sparked my interest in studying pharmacology. I never stopped looking for answers in places that you might not think to look. I plan for the worst, and I hope for the best. And, you know, I have days where I cry, but I actually laugh more than I cry.
There's a bit of an abrupt start. My little brother is dead. He died 12 years ago this month, at the age of 31. A premature end for a seriously talented chef who had a real taste for life. There was nothing but a black, wasteful, sneering, senseless death. The kind of death that is exclusively reserved for people addicted to the bastard son of a depraved love affair between man and the poppy, opiates. But I had access to the leading lights in the addiction therapy world. Instead, I restricted myself to the role of spectator. So I've heard the platitudes 1,000 times. You were in a no-win situation. There was nothing you could do. It's not your fault. He was an addict. You know, you couldn't let this interfere with your working life. You had things to do. Well, I don't want to hear them anymore. The reality is that it is our business to interfere with real life, all of ours. And if we don't interfere with real life, then we might as well hang up our lab coats and go home. But if we can make a dent into the appalling statistics of opioid abuse, opioid overdose, you will be saving countless families from a world of never-ending pain.
So we all need to be open to multiple unusual sources of inspiration, because we never know where the next idea will come from and how we link it. Because finally, creativity is linking unlinked things. And until we open ourselves to all of this, we won't know.
I want you to go beyond your familiar limits. A few years ago, I met a group of Parkinson patients in Canada. This group was meeting once a week, and it was an activity that involved also dancing. The whole room felt very heavy and kind of like life went out of their spirit body. They all felt like this. Yeah. And then I asked, please show me what you do when you meet. So they put some music on, some American song, happy song, and they went like, I don't remember it now exactly, but it was something like this. Lift your hands to the right. This kind of energy. It was nice because they were still doing it, but so then I worked with them. They were sitting like this. This is what I asked them, if you're like this, I want to see more. I want to see that you really because I felt a lot of effort. Even in this one, I felt a lot of effort. There's a lot of effort. You know, there's a lot of effort. Before the Parkinson patient walk, you need to, now you're going to walk. Yeah? And you can feel there was this. And I said, no, don't try to sit up. Just go, go. And they went, and they went, and they went. They came deeper, more. And it actually became very relaxed. You can feel that they become relaxed. And then I said, okay, now you get up and you see the sky and you lift and come up. And they did. Many of them, not all of them. They went up into a position that I could feel that they haven't visited in many years. You could see it. And then, once they felt that there is a range that is a lot bigger than what they used to, we started working. I did with them what we did. And there was amazing difference from what the room was and what it became after 20 minutes. So what do we do about it? What do you do about it? Medicine and more. Maybe more and medicine.
Good questions are often quite daunting and challenging, but also quite inspiring. And there's a question that Erez Wiegandman asked Michael and I last year, which was, hey guys, how can you think about an end-to-end perspective in how we approach patients and their families that are suffering from movement disorders? Okay, like solving the medicine problem of movement disorders isn't already challenging enough. Huntington's, Parkinson's, other diseases. Now we need not only the medicines, but the more as well. So it's a pretty daunting challenge. But we took on the challenge, and as a first step, I looked for a creative intersection. I walked down the hall and knocked on the door of Mike Durkaz. He leads Global CNS in the GSM team. And I said, Mike, you know, we have this challenge that Erez has put to us. How are we going to solve it? So we decided that we needed a real mindset shift in how we approach this problem. And what we did is we reached out to people like Spiros and people like Anne in Mike's group, but we also reached out to many others from many different disciplines across R&D, across GSM. Folks from GGM also participated. And frankly, you know, most of these folks didn't report to either Mike or I, but we said, look, we need your expertise. We need you to join this team with us, and we need you to help us solve this problem holistically. So bring your functional expertise, but leave your functional boundaries or any baggage at the door, because we need to solve this as a Teva together kind of problem. And I think for all the folks that participated, I think they really enjoyed this way of working, and I think we were all very inspired by what we learned. We talked to patients, we talked to families and caregivers, we talked to the physicians that treat these patients, and we talked to patient advocacy groups that support them. We talked to almost anyone that had any perspective about what it's like to live through a patient's story and a patient journey, the patients, the families, and so on. So we mapped out a large set of unmet needs that went way beyond what we usually think of from a clinical perspective. And we put together a kind of support program across that. And there's really 5 pillars, and I'll just take you kind of quickly through those. The first one is this notion of being a partner to patients and their families. And we heard loud and clear over and over that a key element for those folks is the social worker that kind of sits side by side with them and helps them navigate the challenges across so many different aspects of dealing with these diseases. We heard social workers are worth their weight in gold, so we're putting our money where our mouth is and actually building social workers into the SD809 launch, which Mike and others from GSM are now leading. The next 2 pillars are really more focused on the medicine. The first is around R&D 2.0. How do we kind of push the thinking that we're doing in R&D, whether it's around new indications, whether it's working with Iris's team around different ways of thinking about the genetic aspects of certain of the diseases, and other ideas like that. The third one, Navigating RX, is something we're working on both between R&D and medical affairs, also thinking about the titration and how to help the patient deal with the medicine. The fourth one is something we can all get involved in, this notion of the community. For these patients and their families, the communities in HD and PD and so on are very, very important for their support, their learning how to deal with the disease. The last one is what we call the virtual center of excellence. Community physicians often might see, let's take HD as an example, maybe 1 or 2 HD patients in their entire career. So the notion of getting connected to a center of excellence that really understands how to treat this disease is very, very important for the patients. And so we're exploring ideas around whether we can use some of our relationship with American Well to figure out ways to help connect those dots.
So we all need to be open to multiple unusual sources of inspiration, because we never know where the next idea will come from.
Once upon a time, there was this amazing company called Teva. Teva had the largest cabinet of drugs in the industry, thanks to its generic business. And Teva had great capabilities in developing specialty products, commercializing them, getting insights into patient needs. And in the space in between, in the middle, there was this unique opportunity for Teva to use these existing molecules, enhance their properties, and bring a much better treatment outcome for the patients who most need it. The story started in July 2012, and chapter 1 of the story was called NTEs. And at the beginning of the journey, there were many questions. Will patients pay for it? Will it be differentiated enough? Will you be able to build a pipeline? How does it support Teva's strategy? Many, many questions. And I'm happy to tell you that today, May 2016, we have 24 NTEs under development. We have some really exciting programs. You can see there 7 programs for pain and migraine, really supporting our core therapeutic areas. All kinds of things, abuse deterrence, but not the usual abuse deterrence. Abuse deterrence that can potentially help avoiding overdose. Nobody else is developing such treatment. We would be first in class with a drug potentially helping to avoid overdose. Amazing. We have treatments for patients to treat them for both positive and negative syndrome in schizophrenia. No such treatment is available in the market. We are developing drugs for major depression. We are developing long-acting injectables. We are developing new platform for gastric retention for Parkinson. We are developing 2 NTEs for global health. One, the methoxyprogesterone 6 months depot, and the diarrhea solution. Now we have to deliver these programs. In 2013, we realized that one key pillar for NTEs is really breakthrough drug delivery. And we recruited a CTO, Menashe Levy. And Menashe joined, and his task is to find the next breakthrough drug deliveries that can make a difference for patient lives. Some of them, they feed into the NTE. Some of them, they are much broader than a product specific. They will be disruptive. So let's start with a long-acting injectable. Started this project in September 2013. We signed a deal. Developing long-acting injectable. Started with the patient population that most needed, and these are the schizophrenic patients. They hate taking their drug. It's a nightmare for the caregivers. And currently, for the most potent drug, risperidone, it's injectable intramuscularly every 2 weeks, quite painful. So we took the challenge to develop a subcutaneous injection for every 3 months. It would make such a difference for these patients and for their caregivers. The program is ongoing for 2.5 years. We got great results in dogs, but dogs are dogs. But we were really happy to see a few weeks ago that the initial results in humans look really promising. Once we validate this platform, of course, we will explore it across schizophrenia. We can become the #1 company providing long-acting treatment for schizophrenic patients. Second technology I'm really excited about is microchips. So microchips, the idea is you have your polypharmacy inside your body, and the Star Trek we heard before. So at once, in 10 years, in 20 years, we will have the pharmacy inside our body. It will be triggered by our smartphone, released at the right time. I don't want to sell you a dream. We are very far from that. With the current technologies, we are very far from that, because the current microchips, with its 400 wells, can only get micrograms per dose. So it really limits the drugs you can use. But this is today. And we could say we give up, we wait. In 5 years from now, we'll come back, and we will see if the technology is ready. But this is not our approach. We will partner with this company. And we will bring our insights into the drug cabinet, and we will help them, and together we will develop their product so that it can become a transformatory technology. So now when we look at sources of innovation using existing molecules, we see more and more opportunities. And I will tell you, when we started Innotech 8 months ago, I didn't see all that. And I'm sure in a year from now, there will be different bubbles. And the opportunity here is to innovate inside the bubbles and at the intersection between the bubbles.
So we need to be lean, efficient, and agile.
We're going to use our creativity to solve inefficiencies. We're already doing it. You know, I loved the story about the clinical protocol. Till very recently, we had to have sign-off from 64 people before we approved a clinical protocol. Guess what? It took a lot of time. We've got that down now to 4 people, and this will happen much faster. We've got to increase our productivity in different ways. I'm going to talk about this. And we have to drive value with differentiated products, technologies, approaches. We're open to everything because our focus are our patients, and we want to do the best for them.
We are actually doing not bad because our CMC group was ranked among the best in the industry in a McKinsey benchmarking with all the major pharma companies. 30% lower project cost, highest education, highest leverage of technologies. We apply a fail fast, fail cheap strategy, for instance, by having predefined criteria for preclinical candidates, go-no-goes, which led to the termination of 15 early projects in the last 4 years. So we are very rigorous in killing early. We are putting in place measures to reduce attrition. For instance, by doing exploratory toxicity studies, by exploring the use of phase 0 studies, of microdosing studies. And we are striving to accelerate development, for instance, by creating cross-functional solutions, like, for instance, a recently established deuteration evaluation team that evaluates very early deuteration ideas.
I believe that the main thing is really digitalizing of all the industry and where it's going, and whether really, at the end of the day, it will be only drugs or whether it will be drugs and beyond. I truly believe that it is going to change. The healthcare is changing. We need to be ahead of the curve, and my team is being search and evaluation, so looking at the new trends, we are in front of the line there, and we need to identify quickly and make sure that we don't miss the curve. In 2015, we actually screened over 550 opportunities in order to get to the last 20 that we actually executed on in 2015. We realize what our gaps are, and we really know what we're going after. So that's a great opportunity.
It's interesting, in terms of pushing the envelope, if you like, in drug development, our group is really making sure that the transformation that R&D is going through is going to be successful. So, for example, in the respiratory area, several of the project teams are working on the e-connectivity projects and making sure that we have these e-connected devices that we will eventually have an NDA about a year from now for ProAir, for example, e-connected ProAir. So these teams, it's quite a novel way of working. They're obviously working with engineers, electronics engineers, not just device engineers and designers, working with the teams developing the apps for phones and computers, and really pushing the boundaries on what is acceptable to both FDA and EMA to get these approved.
There's one kind of transformational force that changes everything right now, it's digital. If a patient has Parkinson's disease or Huntington's disease, their main endpoint is, or especially in Huntington's disease, the main endpoint of clinical trials is what's called chorea. It's the tremor that they have. And what happens is that this is assessed today in clinical trials usually 3 times during the course of the treatment. So if the patient is treated for 3 months or 6 months, the patient shows up to the doctor 3 times, and based on the doctor's impression of the patient's condition, these are the average of these three measurements are actually the endpoint of the trial. But the patient has chorea all the time. So to the extent that you can have a sensor in the form of a watch or a form of like a Band-Aid that has an accelerometer in it, you can get continuous measurement of the patient's chorea over the entire treatment. So the measurement is much more accurate and actually reflects where the patient's situation. So we just signed an agreement with Intel, and we're embedding in one of our Huntington's trial sensor, and Intel is going to develop for us an algorithm to convert streams from the accelerometers to a chorea score. We're the first in the world to do that.
People are magnificently diverse. Some of us have blue eyes, black eyes, brown eyes. Some have blonde hair, black hair, no hair. Unfortunately, some of us suffer diseases that others will never develop. And it is therefore not surprising that that our response to therapy is also diverse. Given the same drug for the same indication, just about 1/3 to 2/3 of people will experience no benefit or even develop adverse events. So how do we, as drug developers, save our patients and ourselves from this odyssey of trial and error? How can we predict and assign treatment to the right person at the right dose and at the right time? Well, this is where my team comes into play. We collect and characterize biological markers like genes and lab tests. We combine that with digital markers, and then we put it all together in analytical way today, much more big data analytics, to predict response and derive other novel algorithms that help us provide tailoring of medical treatment. The vast majority of drugs out there and in development are metabolized by enzymes that are polymorphic. It means that the genetic sequence is variable. And in some cases, this variation leads to a knockout of the gene. It's not working, it's deficient, which means that the drug is not metabolized, the concentration is very high, and they're prone to develop adverse events. Other individuals have duplications of the gene, which render them ultra-metabolizers. That means they experience no efficacy. This can also be a strategic advantage. Tetrabenazine is metabolized by CYP2D6. The drug label approved by the FDA calls for CYP2D6 genotyping before dosing is selected. Now, the metabolism of SD809 is by CYP2D6 is attenuated, and we have shown that the inter-individual variability in metabolism is much lower, tighter, uniform metabolism, and better safety profile.
You see the challenge. How many people think regulatory affairs is exciting? Okay, about 3 people raised their hands. Exciting fact number 1, we are the single biggest customer for FDA. You may not know this. Post-close with the Activist transaction, we will have over 1,700 approved ANDAs and 320 pending ANDAs, representing a whopping 26% of the approved FDA generics workload. Number 2, we have built the largest Teva R&D organization in India. Our Mumbai story has been a phenomenal success. Costs are low, attrition is low, yet quality is high and morale is high. Exciting fact number 3, we're part of the digital revolution. So it wasn't so long ago within Teva that our registered details were contained in spreadsheets, binders, written on the back of napkins, you name it. Over the last couple of years, we have systematically eliminated all those data sources to create a global insight system which contains 61,000 records and an amazing 273 million data points.
In 2015, the miracle happened. Impossible. 5,000 to 1 odds. They won the Premier League. And so I take lessons from Lester. I take lessons from all these stories. Firstly, it's not so bad right now that competitors underestimate what this group can do. I also see that teamwork is everything. Learning to work as a team without the brilliance of single individuals, which they are here, but actually working together is so important. The sense of intimacy with the community that we serve. These are the fans here, but our community are scientists, board members, investors, and patients. Timing is critical, and also playing a different game.
Let's build a clinical trial experience that truly respects our patients, their families, science, and puts Teva at the epicenter of innovation. We can change the way we think about phases of development, for instance. Choose the right patients using personalized medicine. Reach the billions through social media recruitment campaigns. Replace in-person visits with virtual telemedicine encounters. And last but not least, change the way we measure efficacy using continuous, remote, and objective endpoints. With digital technologies, such as sensors, connected devices, cloud storage, and big data analytics, we can measure multiple endpoints simultaneously, interact with patients remotely, improve data quality, manage trial operations based on real-time data, inform clinical trial design and strategy, generate novel insights for product differentiation, and ultimately, the holy grail, reduce cost, increase speed, and quality of clinical research. So the opportunity is there for the grabbing. So we're not waiting for 2021. We've actually begun working on transforming the way we do clinical trials. And we're actively doing so, working with multiple tech companies, such as Philips, Intel, IBM Watson, to develop remote monitoring tools for different purposes and different disease areas, leveraging overlaps. We truly believe that Teva can make this all possible, and we can deliver the unexpected, which is the virtualization of future clinical trials.
Let's become a little bit more imaginative now. So I'm asking you to open your imagination. What you see here on the left side are Nespresso capsules, right? So now imagine in each of these capsules, different colors, you have a different API. You take your APIs at home or at your pharmacies, your capsules, you bring it to a printer, and your 3D printer prints your drug. And the printer knows who you are. So the printer knows your metabolism, your weight, more history from personalized medicine, and the printer will print for you the right dose for you, and one day, the right fixed dose combination for you. Do you think I'm crazy? You can raise your hand. It's okay. So maybe, but in this specific respect, these printers that you see is installed in our labs in Ulm, and the white pills you see are the pills that Frank printed with his 3D printer. They're not perfect yet, but we are already moving forward. And it's potentially going to transform the way treatment is given. But it's probably a long-term thinking. So the way we approach things in Inotech is, let's say, let's pilot. Let's look for something where we could learn. So what are we piloting with is a personalized dose. Let's take warfarin, a drug where we know the exact dose is critical, and use a 3D printer to print personalized dose. And then we talk with our colleagues from GSM, and what if we could use a Kansas pharmacy and pilot it? So that's a plan, and then we turn it into a work plan, right? That's what we know in Teva. So this printer will be ready at the beginning of next year, validated, and we will pilot. And then we will learn, and we will expand, and we can be first mover.
I'm deeply in my core about making the impossible possible. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what drives me. When you tell me it's hopeless, I'll tell you how we could potentially make it hopeful. That's what I'm about. And you know, that's what you're about. So I say to all of you, what an amazing opportunity we have. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. Are we going to grab it? Can we go for it? Can we work together to make Teva forever? Can we change Teva? Do we have it in us to be involved in a creative adventure in the interest of humanity globally? To become the most creative R&D organization on the planet, dedicated to leading the way in medicines and more, making the impossible possible, delivering the unexpected.
Yes, I can, suddenly, yes, I can. Gee, I'm afraid to go on has turned into, yes, I can. Take a look, what do you see? 133 pounds of confidence in me. Got the feeling I can do anything, yes, I can. I can fight here all night and never rest, yes, I can. I was just born today.